Hello, everyone. Welcome to Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread. We're going to be getting into a little video. It's actually quite a long video, so I do apologize. By Project Remo called Starfield Lies of T. Howard. Before we get into it, I just want to drop down and read some of the comments. As I was reading some of these, I found them fascinating. So, A. Derek79 says, I hate it when people call Starfield mid-tier. Personal opinions can vary, but I think it is definitely below mid. Every aspect of the game is below what I expect from an average game. And Amanda Hug and Kiss 6868 says, agreed, that's being very generous. A mid-game would have been fun, unlike what happened when I played Starfield. Sebastian Ruiz 911 says, I'd sum up Starfield's procedural generation as Radiant Quests, the game. Butcher says, the state of gaming has gotten sad. Bethesda is washed up, Activision is washed up, and Microsoft is washed up. All the money in the world, enough to spend Sony out of business, and they can't even beat PS4 titles. It's probably a PlayStation fan. I can't understand why people support what they are doing and refuse to demand better. Probably a PlayStation fan. Says, I like how this dude sounds like a real person, somebody I grew up with. That's how you know this review is honest and legit. That's Vince Magaj628, who goes on to sum up, because people were confused about that. I only met a lot of the game reviewers tried to sound professional on video. A lot of professional game reviewers also gave Starfield praising reviews upon release, while not giving Bethesda any constructive feedback the game needs. Sometimes these professional reviewers make sure the reviews are positive, so Bethesda keeps letting them get early access to their games. In contrast, this dude sounds like someone who lives down the street who just did not like the game. You don't care about getting early access, it's just a straight opinion. Plus, he just sounds hood, and that's kind of funny. Fredden6Fly says 16 times the load screen. That was what Todd meant. Butcher says, knowing they will use the same engine and have less time, I have no hope for the next Outer Scrolls. Ken McKay 7802 says, Bethesda showed how much care they put into this thing when they released it without an FOV slider. Then Emil, the writer, comes out talking to the customers like they're idiots. Well, in my case, he's absolutely right. I've been buying their games all these years, thinking they'll improve, innovate, apply lessons learned. Yeah, right. Didn't buy this thing. Thank you, YouTubers, for showing and saving me a bunch of money. And won't be making the mistake of buying anything of theirs again, ever. My deal with now is, fine, you keep your lies, Bethesda, and I'll keep my money. Have a nice day. Says Jadiost6 says, I was so naive I thought Microsoft was able to make a difference, but the game is a bug-infested pile of crap that gets more and more unplayable the longer one plays. New issues pop up constantly. I'm done with this beep company for good. Alone, the lousy control implementation on PC is enough to make me stay away from any game also developed for game boxes. And Fredden6Fly says, you forgot the Steam comments on negative reviews from Bethesda Chat GPT. You are playing our game wrong if you are bored. You need to play some more. Aaron the Wolfos says, glad people are catching on to Fraud Howard's lies. Divorce Lawyer A352, that's a great name, says, at least in the opening moments, you get to experience dialogue without the person talking, staring into your soul at every second of every moment. Montana Stranger says, everything you said, I said to my friends about the game at various times. I played for about 37 hours and finally gave up. 37 hours wasted. It was such a random and disjointed playing experience. Loading screen to loading screen, not ever remembering what the fuck happened between it all because it was so blinking boring and mundane. I tried playing as a pirate, says Bradley Allen 6973, but that took away more than half the enemies away. Okay, let's I could read comments all day sometimes. Don't let people tell you that the people aren't pissed off with this game, that it's just all a bunch of YouTubers talking, because people jump into these comments and they talk about the disaster that was this game, and the disaster is this company. And more we talk about this, the more and more people are turning their back on this company, and that is a good thing for the gaming industry as a whole. Bethesda needs to die. And I don't mean that like somebody go in there with a weapon, so don't think anything stupid. I'm not talking about anything of violence against Bethesda studio employees. Not happening. I'm saying the company needs to fold and be done with, or be bought out and be folded, whatever it may be. They've already been bought out by Microsoft. I don't know. But they needs to be done. Disperse those people elsewhere. No more than one per gaming studio. So hopefully they might get their souls back and learn something. All right, let's jump into Project Remo's video. I have not watched this before, by the way, so I hope it's good. Apologize for the link.
Hello, I am Remo, yes man, and today I would like to talk about Starfield, because Starfield is truly a mid-tier game, and if I can dissuade anybody from buying this thing, I will be doing you a public service. And considering the fact that I've played just about every Bethesda game in the past 15 years, I'm not in a position to be charitable here. So let's just go ahead and jump into it with the intro. Now, first of all, the intro to this game is extremely weak. Your introduction is one of the most important parts of your game, because if the intro falls flat, it kind of lays the groundwork for what the rest of the game is going to be like. And based off the shitty ass intro to Starfield, I should have knew the game was going to be basic as fuck. You start the game off as some space miner slash freelancer, and you're working a job for this chick named Min. And as you're working a job, you guys are attempting to dig up this artifact, and in the process of getting this artifact, you happen to touch the artifact and you start having random visions of random space shit. And I say random space shit because it's really not explained. Even 50 hours into the game, it really wasn't explained. It was just like random space shit, like random like constellations and like
random space shit. You know, if they had marketed it as Starfield, random space shit, probably would have sold more. Probably would have sold more.
Like galaxies and shit. It wasn't explained at all. But as a result of that, this new black dude named Barrett shows up, who's apparently with this group called the Collective that's collecting these pieces of the artifact. And he's come down to retrieve this piece. But as he's attempting to retrieve this piece of the artifact, pirates or bandits or mercenaries or some shit attack you guys.
Some shit attacks you.
You have to fight these guys off. After you fight off the pirates or mercenaries, for some reason, this dude Barrett insists on giving you his ship so you can take the artifact back to the Collective.
You're like, hey, do you like my dope ride? Look, it's got the air lifts and it lowers up and down. It's got the thumping stereo system. It's my pride and joy. Here, have the keys. Have it. Go drive around the neighborhood. Enjoy. It's yours. What? What? Why? Makes no sense.
And all while this is going on, he insists on taking your place in this lame-ass space mining expedition, since technically you have a contract to fulfill, and that's basically how the game starts and how you get your first ship.
That's lame.
It's really weird, and it was really confusing, and most of all,
lame.
It was really uninspiring.
Lame.
Like, I had to actively stop myself from looking at TikTok while this shit was going on. Next thing I want to do is I want to touch on the planet.
Oh, God. And if you're a TikTok fan, TikTok is fucking lame. So if you're more interested in TikTok than Starfield, that says a lot about how little there is in Starfield. Wow. Because there's nothing that will enrich you at all in TikTok. Yeah.
Real quick, because the vast majority of your time playing this game is going to be spent walking through planets. So without further ado, now the planets in the planetary exploration in Starfield is extremely dull and extremely boring. Most of the planets come across as procedurally generated, and there's nothing wrong with that if there's shit to do on the planet. But the problem is most of these planets don't have anything to do on them. It's like,
hey, computer, could you procedurally generate me 1,000 planets and make them all really boring? Thanks. That was easy. Hey, let's sit in our asses for the next 4 years and drink Dom Perignon. We'll have sex in the offices together and roll around in piles of money because we're Bethesda.
like landing on an empty ass ocean with objectives that are few and far between, and traversing these planets takes extremely long because there's no vehicle besides your ship. But unfortunately, you can't just fly your ship to other objectives. So
Of course
you
not.
end up traversing across these empty ass maps trying to get to an objective, and it's fucking boring, you know? You end up falling asleep. And to be honest, I know in real life, exploring most of these planets would be extremely dull and extremely lifeless. But to be honest with you, this is a fucking video game. This is a fucking video game.
I think we should send put all our money together and send all of Bethesda gaming studios to another planet to explore it, and make sure there's only fuel for one way.
So there still needs to be some level of fun here in your video game. And exploring these planets is not fun. It's just boring. Like, it makes me want to fall asleep. The Outer Worlds, developed by Obsidian, is a much better space exploration game.
Thank you, an Outer Worlds fan. Thank you. There are many of them out there. We're just pretty damn quiet. Wow. Thank you. Outer Worlds was a hella fun game. No, it's not open world, but it's hella fun. My theory here is, we call this a loading screen simulator. Starfield. Haha, it's a loading screen simulator. What it really is a gamer simulator. It's a game that was put out just to find out how stupid gamers are. Because the people who play this, and the people who buy this and play this, and the people who continue to play this, are lowering the IQ of the gamers in the estimation of all the gaming companies out there. And the stupider they think we are, the more of this kind of shit we'll get.
Then Bethesda Starfield is. The Outer Worlds didn't have nearly the budget that Bethesda Starfield had, and it didn't have nearly the amount of planets that Starfield has. But the few planets that it did have were absolutely beautiful. From the moment you start the game and you get out to explore your first planet, the color palette on the planets were absolutely stunning, and it was a sight to behold. Whereas when you look at Starfield, most of the planets are dull and empty, and they're not fun to explore.
Yep.
And Starfield's maps are so lifeless and empty, they just come across as extremely lazy, especially when you contrast them with Bethesda's previous work. Load up any Bethesda game and walk from one end of the map to the other, and you will have experienced the vast majority of what each planet offers in its entirety in Starfield. And I'm actually willing to go farther than that and say if you load up Fallout 3 or Skyrim, or even if you load up Fallout 4, walking from one end of the map to the other is a lot more engaging than doing it in Starfield, for the simple fact that a lot more love and intimacy went into designing those maps rather than Starfield's procedurally generated garbage.
Yep.
Fallout 4 was one of the most mid-tier Fallout games to ever be released, and Starfield makes Fallout 4 look like an absolute masterpiece. This game is literally a glorified walking simulator, with 80% of your gameplay being walking from one objective to the other. But at least with the implementation of Fallout 4, Bethesda added a sprint button, which is about the most innovating that they did in that game. But I know it may be kind of unreasonable to ask for infinite sprint, but why the fuck don't we have vehicles in this game? I was wondering why we didn't have vehicles in Fallout 4, and people were like, oh, well, it's just not that type of game.
I don't think the game engine can keep up with it. I think if you move too fast, the game engine would falter so badly you would see really quickly how bad the engine is. That's what I think. I'm not a game designer, though. If you think I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me.
Well, shit. Now we have Starfield, which is a whole ass space exploration shooter, supposedly. And guess what? we're still on foot even though we have a spaceship, right? So why the fuck don't we have vehicles? Now, there are vehicles around the world of Starfield, ground vehicles in particular,
Hmm.
but most of these vehicles are just asset placed around a dull ass map to seemingly give the place life. And even your ship, right? Half of your ship's function is to be a glorified loading screen when it's time to do a scene transition. The ship you fly around in Starfield is the equivalent of a ship in Warframe, except a ship in Warframe has way more space and functionality to begin with. And I know you can upgrade your ship later in Starfield, but that's after you do a bunch of investing in the piloting skill and a bunch of other dumb shit. And your ship is so small in the beginning of the game that the amount of crew that the game squeezes into that motherfucker had me literally on the floor laughing because there was literally no space to move around. Bethesda has been making this style of game for almost 20 years, and for some reason, Bethesda never thought it was a good idea to implement vehicle transportation for the player. And to be honest, usually Bethesda can get away with
They did have horses in Skyrim. At least it's something.
shit like this because usually walking through a Bethesda map is actually pretty engaging and it's fun discovering new locations.
Not this one.
But when 90% of the planets on your star system are empty and boring as fuck with nothing to do, you don't feel a ton of incentive to explore. And I'm sure there's some shit out there that's cool, right? I'm sure there is cool shit out there to find. But when all the planets are this empty, I don't feel like spending an hour walking across an empty ass planet just to find some cool shit that may or may not be there, especially when I have a whole ass spaceship that you won't even let me fly short distances across the planet. Now, as you're making your way through Starfield, the vast majority of the time you're just going to be walking and walking and walking. But the other X% of the time you're actually going to be shooting. You're going to be using your weapons, right? So the gunplay needs to be fun, right? And honestly, the guns and weapons in Starfield feel extremely dull. Like, I will give them credit, they do feel good to use, but they just feel dull as all hell. There is nothing really that special about any of these weapons, or at least any of the weapons I have found 50 hours in. Like, most of my weapons were just basic guns that shoot bullets. And I did eventually get a laser rifle, but even the laser
See,
rifle
Outer Worlds, you had so many cool guns. You get like the gloop gun and you had all kinds of different weapons with different effects that you could use. They were quite awesome. Actually, the guns, I mean, the shooting mechanics and everything else in the Outer Worlds were nothing to write home about, but the amount of different weapons with different effects and things you could get, um, yeah, there were some really amazing ones like shrink ray guns and stuff. There was all kinds of such fun stuff in that game. Fun. The Outer Worlds was about fun. And I know the Outer Worlds and Starfield are different. Thank God the Outer Worlds was different than Starfield, or I wouldn't have enjoyed the Outer Worlds. Obviously, different companies and everything. That's probably why they're different. Um, I think Obsidian's a great company, whereas Bethesda is Bethesda.
was kind of underbaked. The laser rifle, it didn't have an animation where it cinematically disintegrated people like laser rifles in past games. So as a result of that, it just felt like another standard gun. I didn't get any plasma pistol or any plasma rifle. Like, this is Starfield. Where the fuck are my plasma pistols and my plasma rifles? Where's my goddamn Gatling laser? Like, this is Starfield. You would think for a space exploration shooter, there would be way more futuristic gadgets and weapons across the environment to dispatch your enemies with. But instead, the weapons that we do have are lame as fuck and they're dull and boring, you know? Where's my goddamn beam sword, you know? Where's my flamethrower? Where's the incinerator or the shock baton as seen in past Fallout games? And to be honest, I'm not saying that that stuff is not in the game. I'm just saying that 50 hours in, I did not find it.
Hmm.
When you look at Fallout New Vegas, 50 hours into Fallout New Vegas, you had a ton of unique weapons to play with unique ammo capabilities. And that's one thing that a lot of people overlook about Fallout New Vegas, and one system that Bethesda never expanded on. Most of the weapons you have unique ammo capabilities. Like you can use plus P ammo. If you had trouble getting through an enemy's armor, you could use armor piercing rounds.
By the way, I did actually play The Outer Worlds and finish it, and I recorded all those episodes. They are available over on my Miss Valley Gaming YouTube channel. So if you want to go check those out, you're certainly welcome to. I think there was like 52 episodes to finish the game, something like that. If I recall correctly, somewhere right around there. Um, yeah, you can find it under my playlist on Miss Valley Gaming. Look for the Outer Worlds. I had a hell of a fun time, and if you watch that series of videos, you'll discover the fun that I had during the game. So a few frustrating moments as well, but very few and far between. There's one in particular, relatively early in the game, where I got very pissed off. I couldn't figure out how to do something until I realized I needed to go away, level up, and come back and do it. Once I figured that out, then I was okay. Um, but man, I'm listening to this video, but now I'm waxing nostalgic about the Outer Worlds. I almost want to go back and play it again. I don't have the time to do it right now. And if we get a downtime during the year where there's just not much coming out and I'm not doing a lot of other things, I might go back and replay the game. But yeah, that's over on my Miss Valley Gaming channel. You can find the links to my other channels down below. So I've got obviously Miss Valley Entertainment News. I've got Miss Valley Gaming and Miss Valley Mods, where I play fan modded games, especially Skyrim. And I've also got my Miss Valley Discord page as well. Welcome to join up for that. Anyways, enough about me. Let's go back to this.
If you were using a laser weapon, right, and you were dealing with a particularly tough weapon, you could switch your ammo to overcharge rounds, or you can switch it to max charge rounds, right? It added a lot of depth to the gameplay. It added a whole new layer of depth to the gameplay when you're engaging enemies. And Starfield doesn't have any of that. Starfield just has basic ass gunplay that feels like we're stuck in the Fallout 4 era. And to be honest, even the gunplay in Fallout 4 felt much better than the gunplay in Starfield. Like when you look at some of the weapons in past Fallout games, Fallout New Vegas had that hollow rifle that can blast enemies almost across the map. You had laser rifles. You had Father Elijah's laser rifle, which was a signature laser rifle, you know? You had an anti-personnel rifle. You had mods for these weapons that would give these weapons even more unique capabilities. You had Fat Mans, which were mini nuke launchers. You had Fat Mans with little boy mods. In the little boy mod, it would turn that mini nuke into a little cluster bomb. The unique weapon capabilities in past Bethesda games, and yeah, I know Fallout New Vegas wasn't developed by Bethesda, but it's still technically a Bethesda game. And it's crazy that you would have all of that under your belt. And instead of having a system in Starfield from past Fallout games that you have innovated on, you basically just have a dumbed down version of that system, or you don't have the system in its entirety in your new game. And it just comes across as extremely lazy.
Yeah.
Even in Fallout 4, which was Bethesda's most recently created Fallout game, Fallout 4 had a bunch of unique weapons when you got past all the pipe pistol variation bullshit. Fallout 4 had a ton of unique legendary weapons. Anytime you killed a legendary enemy, they would drop a legendary weapon, and each legendary weapon had a special effect. Some of these legendary weapons would have a faster attack speed. Some of these legendary weapons would do additional damage to human enemies. Some of these legendary weapons would give you plus 50 damage to ghoul enemies. I had one assault rifle in particular that came with explosive rounds and it did AoE damage. And it was cool because anytime an enemy was hiding in cover, I wouldn't even have to directly shoot that enemy. I could literally just shoot next to him and the AoE damage would kill the enemy. Like, you had a ton of unique weapons in Fallout 4, and instead of innovating on that shit in Starfield, it's just not here, or it's replaced with this bullshit ass gunplay system. And like I said, the guns, they do feel fine. They feel fine. It just doesn't feel like it's been innovated on since your last game, you know? So even though the gunplay feels fine, it still feels boring as fuck and it feels kind of lazy, to be honest.
Yeah.
The weapons that we do have in Starfield, they feel fine to use, but they all basically feel like the same weapon. And to be honest with you, I do have some weapons with special effects, like I have some poisonous weapons and some radioactive weapons,
Ooh.
but the complexity is so dumbed down that you don't even notice any kind of a status effect when you're using them. As a result, the weapons just feel extremely basic. Next, let's talk about your lockpicking minigame.
Oh boy.
Because your lockpicking minigame is ass. And it's crazy because you had a decent lockpicking minigame.
Oh,
You had
man.
like the standard lockpicking minigame that a lot of other games would steal and implement for their own games. But instead, you implement this bullshit because you're trying to innovate on your lockpicking system when you really didn't need to innovate. Instead, you have this awful lockpicking minigame where there's just a bunch of circles with slots you have to fill out. And to be honest, it's not too hard because in the corner, right, when you highlight a circle, it will actually glow if it fits that slot, if you can rotate it and it fits that slot. But even then, right, sometimes if you fuck up and you have to undo a lot of these circles that you already did, it can cost you a ton of lockpicks. And as a result of that, you kind of just have to end up saving and loading.
Looks like
And
ass.
sometimes the RNG on your lockpick is really good and you can get this done really quick. But sometimes it's just complete bullshit and it costs you more lockpicks than it should have. And you have to save and load. And it's just kind of a hassle because it's taking up valuable time that you really don't even want to spend doing this shit, you know? So to have a lockpicking minigame like this that's not even fun and that's kind of confusing to begin with is just not a good look, Bethesda. Next, let's talk about the skills, because the skills in Starfield are comically bad.
What? I
All of the
thought they were great. I thought they were tremendous. They were my favorite. No, they weren't. Okay.
skills and perks are, well, you know what? I'm not going to say all of them. Most of them seem negligible to the point where it seems like you could just avoid them. I'm 50.
Yeah, Project Remo, you're just playing the game wrong. Have you tried creating another character? Have you tried picking different skills? Have you tried picking a different background? Have you tried playing another 250 hours till the game gets good? Have you tried New Game Plus? The game really gets good at New Game Plus. Have you tried sucking Todd Howard's dick? That'll probably help a lot. At least it'll help Todd.
50 hours into the
Sorry.
game and I've only picked up about like 7 of these perks. And to be honest, the only ones that I've really found useful were the boost pack training for my jump efficiency, the medicine, obviously, you know, that way my healing items are a little more effective. The melee perk, that way my
I
melee
gotta skip ahead a little bit.
unlock the next rank of that perk. Gone are the days where you can level up and just allocate 18 points into science and
Too much
within
talking
like
about
that
skills.
many
I
skill
stopped
points to
caring.
spend, even though I was at rank 20. Next, let's talk about the companions, because the companions in Starfield are some of the least impactful companions I have ever seen in a Bethesda game. Most of the time, I didn't even realize these guys were there. I think these guys may have some kind of special perks, but I didn't care enough to check any of them out to see if they did have a special perk. And I think some of them
I
may
didn't want
have
to talk to him.
interesting backstories, but 50 hours in, I really don't even remember anything about any of these characters, which says a lot about them, you know?
At least in the Outer Worlds, when you met your companions and brought them on board the ship, they had quests for you to do. They had interesting conversations with you and with themselves. Take them on missions. They have interesting things to say. Nothing that changes the game, just a little amusing quips and things. All of them had very different character quests, I guess you want to say. NPC quests, where follower quest, you want to put it that way. However you want to say it. They each had their individual one that was completely separate, completely different from all the rest, and they were all very interesting, very unique, very strange, unexpected twists in a lot of them, and some fun things to do. And of course, you couldn't just rush through them. You need to progress in the game sometimes to get a lot of these things out. So to actually be able to go through and complete the character quest, you had to advance further in the game. It's not like you just go, I'm just going to do the character quest now and whip it out, be done with it. You still had to keep going further and then choose to continue the character, the follower quests as you went. To me, it made the very fun followers in the Outer Worlds more than just fun, but it did flesh them out and made them feel like, hey, they were people that I enjoyed having with me, although there were some I enjoyed less than others. There were some that, until their follower quest ended, I was really like, why do I have this asshole with me? And then you were like, oh, maybe they weren't quite as bad as I thought. You know, that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed the companions and stuff and the way they fleshed them out in the Outer Worlds. Again, a smaller game, a different company. Um, then, of course, there's these yahoos.
Most of the companions seem kind of AI generated, and there doesn't seem to be anything special about them. And to be honest, I think Sarah right here probably seems to be my most favorite companion, because although she may not be that interesting, she does appear to have a bright future behind her, if
She's
you know
not
what I mean.
interesting.
But
A
yeah,
bright
man,
future behind her. She's got a bright future behind her. She's already ruined her own future and jumped past it. I'm confused by that statement, but whatever. So this is the best character, even though she's not interesting. Wow.
the companions in this game just kind of suck. And these guys ain't no Raul with his regular repair perk, or they ain't no Fox with his
Lydia!
goddamn Gatling laser,
Lydia!
and they sure as hell ain't no dog meat. These companions just kind of come across as dull and boring, to be honest.
Lydia!
And I hate to keep bringing it up, but the Outer Worlds had a much better
Whoa.
companion system.
I did not know he was going to be an Outer Worlds fan. Like I said, I had not watched this before. Kudos, Project Remo. Oh, you're yeah. Yeah, you're getting a like and a subscribe, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Than Starfield did. And the Outer Worlds actually had a dedicated button to the companions to where you're in combat and you could have a companion target an enemy and use their special ability, and it was cool.
I gotta admit, I barely ever use that. And sometimes when I was in trouble in a fight, I just button mash and hit that button, and something would happen, and I wasn't even aware what's going on because it's too much of a panic. So I never purposely used that button that I'm aware of. I might have at times. I can't remember now, but I don't think I did. I was always like, what the hell is this even for? What does it even do? I know I've taken perks for this, but I don't remember. I just had fun going through the game.
Cool, because it played a nice little cinematic animation, you know, whether you had a companion running up and smashing an enemy with a hammer, or whether you had a companion running up and jump kicking a guy.
There you go, Zhu
It
Li.
was just cool, right? And it just seems like Obsidian is outdoing Bethesda on every level. Like Obsidian is literally out here out Bethesda-ing Bethesda.
Yeah.
Next, let's talk about the ship combat, because the ship combat is fairly basic, but it actually works. And the ship combat is actually
different
kind
opinions
of
on that,
fun
but
when it's working properly. I'm not playing on PC. I'm playing on the Xbox Series X personally.
oh
And
no, you just guaranteed that all the PlayStation fans are now going to come shit all over this video and all over my video. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that.
from what I can tell, the ship combat is fine as long as it's working properly. From what I can tell, you have your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, and a special weapon, be it a missile or an EMP.
I just want to say I've heard a lot of people describe how terrible the ship combat is, so I don't know what to say about that, but everybody's different, I guess.
And everything seems to just function, you know? I haven't made too many upgrades to my ship because I didn't give that much of a fuck to make too many upgrades to my ship, because the whole system is a little confusing, to be honest. And I didn't care enough to watch a 15-minute video on what I need to know to properly upgrade my ship. But the ship combat works, you know, and it is fun. But what I will say about the space combat is there's a level of randomness that could ruin your day depending on what difficulty setting you're on. Like, the game is pretty laughably easy, so obviously I was playing on hard mode at first, but I had to switch the game to easy mode because although the enemies are really easy on hard mode, the ship combat was extremely difficult, and I was getting my ass dug out playing the ship combat on hard mode, because most of the time when you're
So that sounds like not well balanced then.
engaging ships, oftentimes you're engaged in 2 to 3 ships, you know, and there's always going to be a level of randomness there. But when you're on hard mode and you're engaging 2 to 3 ships, like the ship combat, it doesn't seem very balanced, or maybe it is and I'm just not good to begin with. But on hard mode, these guys will run you out the building every fucking time. So you really have to know what you're doing on hard mode. And it creates this weird ass dichotomy where the standard combat is extremely easy, so you want to play on hard mode, but at the same time you don't want to have to switch between hard and easy mode when you're engaging in the ship combat, and as opposed to when you're engaging in the standard combat, you know. So it's really weird from a balancing standpoint, you know. It's like you're playing 2 totally different games on hard mode.
Dude, why would you just do that? Why would you have your Sarah over here shooting at a guy this way and you run right through her gunfire? Why would you not go around this way?
Really
see
weird
that?
from a balancing standpoint, you know? It's like
She's firing,
you're playing 2 totally different games on hard mode
to run over to the person. Why?
But yeah, you know, the ship combat overall is not that bad. It's fairly basic and it works for what it is. So I
it's
won't
basic until you get to hard mode, and then it's completely unbalanced with the rest of the game. Oh boy. What a fucking mess.
give Bethesda too much crap for the ship combat. Let's talk about fun. I did not have a lot of fun while playing this game. Like, there were definitely fun moments.
Oh my god. Oh, I have fun listening to people talk about how little fun they had playing this game. Oh my god. Oh, then on the top is like, was it fun? Hell no. Oh my god. Oh, I'm gonna start crying. I'm laughing so hard.
Yeah, you know, the
sorry.
ship combat overall is not that bad. It's fairly basic and it works for what it is. So I won't give
It just
Bethesda too much
works
crap
on easy
for the
mode.
ship combat. Let's talk about fun. I did not have a lot of fun while playing this game.
Oh
Like, there
man.
were definitely fun moments, but for the most part, I did not have a lot of fun while playing this. And I had to force myself to keep playing this because
Ew.
I wanted to make a video on the game, but I didn't want to just quit 10 hours in. And I remember someone saying it only gets fun after like the 12-hour mark or some shit, right? So I
What a
kept
fucking
playing.
lie.
Then next thing I knew, I was at 20 hours, and it's not even like I had a bunch of fun. And I don't even know what the fuck I did. I don't even remember what the fuck I did. You know, I feel like I just did a bunch of random shit. I didn't have any real memorable experiences,
Hmm.
and everything seems so disconnected
Like
that
it's like going to Bethesda Gaming Studios and getting blackout drunk and then wondering why your ass is sore when you leave. Right? Yeah. Because you got screwed.
eventually I started just only proceeding with the main story mission. But even the main story missions just seem like ass because it's just I'm going for these relics on all these different planets. Some of the relics are small, some of the relics are big, but each time I get to the relic, I have to kind of mine the relic up, and I touch the relic and I have a vision of some random space shit. It's just like a random cosmos or a
Random
random
space shit.
constellation or some random shit, right? And eventually you start getting these powers, right? Eventually you start getting these powers, but
Because you're starborn. Right? And you get to face the giant space dragon Alduin. Alduin Centauri. No, because that would be better than the shit they did. Of course, you don't get anything exciting like that.
like I think I only got a few of the powers, and even then, it's not like I was already bored with the game, and it's not like the powers were gonna make a meaningful difference in my gameplay to the point where it would have made me more immersed in the experience at hand. Like, I was literally falling asleep while playing this. I remember one day I got off.
And no offense to Project Remo, but listening to you talk about this game for 32 minutes almost puts a lot of us to sleep. And it's not because you're a boring speaker or anything else. It's just because we got to watch all this crappy, shitty footage of a crappy, shitty game and hear about how crappy and shitty it is. And we all know it is. We're all smart. We're here on my channel. We all know.
Off work, and I was like, I know I put 50 hours into Starfield, but let me just hop on Starfield since I've been playing that game. You know, it's in the rotation of games I've been playing, so let me go ahead and just hop on Starfield. And I hopped on Starfield, and I remember having a random space encounter, talking to this random ship for some random shit in space. You know, sometimes when you go to like a new area, sometimes you'll just have a random contact with a random spaceship. And I remember I was doing this and trying to see what this guy want. And I remember as I was doing this little side quest, I was just falling asleep. Like, I was just dozing off. You know, I obviously had just got off work, but I was just falling asleep, you know, and I was like, dude, I just don't want to play this, I guess. So I turned off the game and I turned on Bloodborne, and I shit you not, I turned on Bloodborne. I literally played Bloodborne for 3 fucking hours before I went to sleep, you know. I turned on Bloodborne and it's like I was instantly awake. You know, I don't know what the fuck it was. It's like I was instantly awake as opposed to Starfield where I was falling asleep. So it's like, fuck, man. Starfield is
Project Remo, you were just doing the game wrong. Talk to Emil. He'll set you straight.
like one of those games that I need to play when I'm ready to go to sleep or some shit. And even then, the game is just not fun. And it's just not something I want to play. And it's not an experience that I want to engage in. when you look at Starfield as a whole and you compare it to Fallout 4, in many ways, Bethesda's game design has actually regressed.
Yeah,
And a
every
lot of
way.
the features that they
Every
had
way.
in Fallout 4 are not in Starfield. And yeah, you can make the argument that they are two different games, but I would make the argument that they're actually the fucking exact same game. Starfield is just Fallout 4 with a space aesthetic. And instead of having one really good map with a bunch of interesting locations and cool objectives on it, Bethesda has stretched that across an entire universe by using procedural generation. And what you experience in the game is all a result of that. And it says a lot about Bethesda's game design, you know? It's
Huh?
really lazy and it's really uninspired. And the creation engine in general just needs to be retired. Bethesda
So is
has
Bethesda.
gotten too comfortable with the creation engine, so comfortable to the point that they are afraid to
They've got so comfortable with their mattresses full of money that they sleep on and spill Dom Perignon all over while they office party that they don't even know who the fuck. They don't even resemble fucking human beings anymore. They're just it's a trash studio. It's an absolute trash studio. Uh, Let them finish.
engine in general just needs to be retired. Bethesda has gotten too comfortable with the creation engine, so comfortable to the point that they are afraid to move on from that engine. They've had so much success and so many breakout hits with the creation engine that they're literally afraid to move on
I'd
and
agree.
innovate with their game design. When you look at Breath
One
of
of
the
the problems.
Wild
It's one of the
and you
problems.
contrast that to
There's many.
past Legend of Zelda games, you get to see the innovation of Nintendo and how the IP has evolved over the years. Whereas Bethesda's game design has barely evolved at all. And as a result, Starfield as a whole is suffering because of that. We will never get a New Vegas 2 developed by Obsidian for the simple fact that Bethesda is scared of Obsidian, because if Obsidian were to develop a Fallout New Vegas 2,
Okay, so that's kind of that clicks for me. That is what's going on with people trashing Avowed before it's even come out and trashing Obsidian online. It's the Bethesda fanboys. And maybe a lot of them are fucking bots. You start looking at some of these accounts who are trashing it, you go look at them, and they were created fairly recently, and they've got like no videos, no followers. They're probably a lot of them are bot accounts, and they're out there reeling other people into this, and they are just trashing Obsidian Studios, Obsidian Entertainment. They're trashing Avowed. They're trashing the Outer Worlds years later. And this makes sense to me. This is Bethesda doing this. It's a Bethesda campaign. It's a covert campaign. They're not obviously doing it themselves from their own tweets or whatever, or their own press statements, but they're obviously organizing this with their fans and their fans with the bot accounts to go after Obsidian because they are still scared of that studio. That explains a lot to me about what's been going on, because I cannot understand the Obsidian and Avowed hatred I'm seeing on a game that's not even coming out till next fall. It's been out fucking rageous. And I am astounded at the people talking about what a trash game it is when I'm looking at it like it looks like a fucking great game. What are you talking about? And they're trying to tell me things that I'm looking at. I'm like, I do not see what you're seeing. I'm looking at the same video clip you are, and what you're saying is there. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't have a problem with this game, period. And then they'll go on and they'll trash the Outer Worlds being garbage. Outer Worlds was not garbage. Look at its user scores. Look at its how much it sold. Outer Worlds did fucking great, and Outer Worlds 2 was going to slay. Um, and I think Avowed is going to do very well. I don't think Avowed's going to be Game of the Year. I don't even think Avowed's going to be RPG of the Year. But I think Avowed is going to do very well despite this hate campaign going on against it. And this makes sense to me. I never put two and two together. It was Bethesda and their hatred and fear of Obsidian that's doing this. But now it makes sense. So thank you for that, Project Remo. I would not have put those two together.
And that Fallout New Vegas 2 happens to be better than anything Bethesda has done in the past 12 years, then that raises the question, why do we need Bethesda?
We don't.
This is Remo Yes Man, signing out.
And none of you should need it either. Walk away from Bethesda if you haven't done so already. You really need to start thinking about doing it now, because the wave is getting larger of people who are doing it. And soon you're going to be left alone on an island, the island of Todd Howard. Good luck to you, because your games are going to get shittier and shittier and shittier. And as the gaming industry as a whole follows suit, fingers of blame are going to get pointed at those of you who still supported Bethesda during this. It's going to be your fault for supporting bad gaming companies and bad gaming practices that this goes all the way around the gaming industry, and they all take advantage of it. So please, for the love of God, start thinking about the games you buy, the studios you buy from, what they're asking of you, what they're delivering, and be very, very careful how you spend your hard-earned money, because you could be ruining the gaming industry by what you're doing. So please think. Thank you for Project Remo for this Starfield Lies of T. Howard, and I will get out of here now. I've given my opinion on this. I'd love to know what you all think. Drop down and let me know. Catch y'all later from Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.